The hospital lobby was quiet except for the soft hum of vending machines and the occasional squeak of rubber soles on polished tile. It was past midnight, that heavy hour when even a building full of life-and-death urgency seemed to hold its breath. Emily pushed through the glass doors, hugging her arms against the biting night air. Her 12-hour shift was only halfway done, and exhaustion clung to her like a second skin. She stepped down onto the concrete steps, letting the cold wake her up. That's when she noticed him. A man sat hunched on a wooden bench near the entrance, head drooping forward, his breathing shallow and uneven. His dark hair was disheveled, his dress shirt wrinkled as though he'd been wearing it for days. What caught her most was the way his shoulders trembled, not from emotion, but from the bitter wind slicing through the night. Emily hesitated. She wasn't supposed to approach strangers outside hospital grounds, but something in her chest tightened. He didn't look dangerous, he looked forgotten. Without thinking too hard, she slipped off her own jacket, a plain navy one she'd worn for years, and walked over. Gently, she draped it across his shoulders, tucking the sleeves around him as though tucking in a child. He stirred slightly, but didn't wake. "Whoever you are," she whispered, "you shouldn't be cold tonight." She lingered for just a second, watching his shivering ease. Then she turned back toward the sliding doors, unaware that her small act of kindness was about to change far more than one sleepless night. Inside, the hospital hummed back to life. Monitors beeped steadily, call lights blinked in scattered rooms, and the low murmur of nurses exchanging reports filled the hallways. Emily returned to her rounds, pushing the image of the stranger on the bench to the back of her mind. She had patients waiting. An elderly woman who needed her floor checked, a young boy recovering from surgery, a worried father asking endless questions. But every so often, as she jotted down vitals or adjusted a blanket, her mind wandered back outside to that man wrapped in her jacket. Hours passed, and the gray light of dawn began to creep through the tall lobby windows. On her way to refill supplies, Emily passed by the entrance again. She slowed. There he was, still on the bench, but something about him looked different. The sharp tension in his posture had softened. His head rested against the back of the bench now, and though his clothes were still rumpled, his face seemed calmer, as if he'd finally found rest after carrying too much for too long. Emily felt a quiet relief bloom in her chest. For a moment she imagined walking over, offering coffee, asking why he was there. But just then, the urgent buzz of her pager shattered the thought. Room 214 needed her immediately. She turned away and hurried down the hall, unaware that outside, under the soft morning light, the man's fingers gently gripped the jacket around him as though holding on to a lifeline he hadn't known he needed. A soft breeze rustled through the hospital courtyard as the first golden rays of sunlight broke across the horizon. The man stirred, lifting his head slowly as though surfacing from a long, heavy sleep. His body ached from the hard bench, but there was something else, an unfamiliar warmth draped over his shoulders. He blinked against the light, his tired eyes landing on the navy jacket cocooning him. For a moment, he simply stared, disoriented. His last clear memory was of sitting alone in the icy night, his mind clouded by a spiral of regret and decisions he couldn't take back. He'd come to the hospital to visit a dying employee, a man he had once scolded publicly, only to discover too late how deeply his words had cut. The guilt had followed him like a shadow, leaving him wandering outside until exhaustion claimed him. And now, this. A jacket. A simple jacket that wasn't his. He ran his hands over the fabric, feeling the softness, noticing a faint scent of lavender and something familiar, maybe laundry soap or the echo of someone's daily life. It wasn't expensive, not designer, but it felt more valuable than anything he'd bought in years. Something inside him cracked open. In his world of contracts, board meetings, and endless calculations, no one ever did anything without expecting something in return. But whoever had left this jacket hadn't asked for a name, hadn't known his worth on paper. They had simply seen a shivering man and chosen to care. His throat tightened as he stood, jacket still around his shoulders, and gazed at the hospital entrance. For the first time in a long time, he felt human again. And deep within, a question stirred: who would show such kindness to a stranger like me? Later that afternoon, Emily was bent over a chart at the nurse's station, her pen racing across forms while her mind still buzzed with tasks. The hospital was busier now, phones ringing, stretchers wheeling past, voices calling out orders, but in that chaos, she had found a rhythm. She barely noticed when the elevator doors opened behind her. A man in a charcoal gray suit stepped into the lobby, his polished shoes clicking softly against the floor. Heads turned. He carried himself with a quiet gravity, the kind that made people instinctively move aside. Yet there was something different in his expression, an earnestness, almost a vulnerability, that didn't match the power in his presence. He approached the station, holding the navy jacket carefully folded over his arm. "Excuse me," he said, his voice low but clear. "I'm looking for the young nurse who works nights. I need to thank her." Emily looked up, caught off guard. Their eyes met, and she froze. It was him. The man from the bench. But gone was the weary figure slumped in the cold. Standing before her now was someone transformed, his suit sharp, his posture strong. He hesitated, then offered the jacket with both hands. "This is yours, isn't it?" he asked softly. "You gave it to me when I had nothing but the night and my thoughts, and you didn't even know me." A flush of embarrassment crept up Emily's neck. I just didn't want you to be cold," she murmured. He smiled then, a small, genuine smile that softened his entire face. "Most people would have walked past," he said. "But you didn't. You reminded me what matters." In that moment, amidst the beeping monitors and hurried footsteps, the world seemed to pause, just long enough for gratitude to bloom between two strangers. 2 weeks later, the hospital buzzed with an energy Emily had never felt before. Banners fluttered in the warm breeze outside, cameras lined the steps, and a crowd of staff, patients, and local press gathered near the new wing's gleaming glass doors. Emily smoothed her scrubs nervously, still not quite believing she'd been invited to stand beside the man whose life she'd unknowingly touched. He was there too, standing tall in a simple suit this time, his smile genuine, his eyes alive with purpose. The man everyone now knew as Alexander Reed, one of the wealthiest CEOs in the city, stepped forward to address the crowd. He spoke of healthcare workers who worked through exhaustion, of ordinary people whose compassion changed lives. And then, to Emily's shock, he gestured toward her. "There was a night," he began, his voice thick with emotion, "when I forgot what it meant to be human. I sat outside this very hospital, lost in my own failures, and a young nurse gave me her jacket, something small, but it warmed more than my body. It woke me up." Gasps rippled through the audience. Emily's cheeks burned, but tears blurred her vision. "This new wing," Alexander continued, "isn't just a donation. It's a promise, that kindness will ripple outward. That one person's selfless act can change countless lives." The crowd erupted in applause. Emily felt her heart swell as he cut the ribbon and turned to her with a quiet nod. In that moment, she realized her simple gesture had sparked something far greater than herself. As the applause echoed, Emily gripped her old navy jacket, smiling through tears. In a world that often felt cold, a single act of warmth had set in motion a chain of miracles, and that thought lit up her soul.